Welcome to the Becoming Your Best Version podcast. I am your host, Maria Leonard Olson. I'm a civil litigation attorney in Washington, D.C., a mentor to women in recovery, an author, TEDx speaker, journalist, and book marketer for women. You can learn more about me at marialeonardolson.com. If you would hit the like button on my TEDx talks and consider reviewing my book, I would greatly appreciate it. It is an algorithm that rewards people who have more likes. Even one word helps. So, I started this podcast 6 years ago because my work in the realm of women in midlife brought me into contact with amazing women who have inspired me and I think will inspire you. Today, Gail Harris is joining us. She's a certified ghostwriter who drafts deeply healing, compelling, life-affirming memoirs for women authors who don't want to write their books on their own. She's a book award finalist for the memoir called Finding Zoe. She resonates with authors who, in addition to any professional goals they may have, see writing their memoir as a way to heal. They want to heal and share what they've learned about themselves and life to possibly help others. They've done enough self reflection to know they have a powerful story inside and are willing to claim it and start writing. Gail helps her authors connect the dots in ways they may not have seen before. She's a story doula, guiding them to give birth to the story that's bursting to come alive in them, the one they are meant to write that's universal and marketable. Viewing her life as a spiritual journey, Gail has been doing her own inner work for a long time and understands what healing is about. This, along with her writing experience, is what she believes makes being a women's memoirist her dharma or gift. She understands that when we share our deepest truth, no matter how painful, we bring compassion and healing to ourselves and others. She's the founder of Golden Ghostwriting and the author of her own book called Your Heart Knows the Answer: How to Trust Yourself and Make the Choices That Are Right for You. It guides women to listen for and live according to their heart's wisdom. You can learn more at goldenghostwriting.com and follow her on LinkedIn. Welcome, Gail.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Maria. It's about time.
So, how did you start the business called Golden Ghostwriting? What made you do it?
Well, about 3 or 4 years ago, I went back and I got my ghostwriting certification because if anybody knows anything about the publishing industry, it's changing so much these days with AI and the different publishing paths. And I felt that I needed to go back and get my certification. And I knew a lot already. I'd written a couple of books, but one of the things they talked about in this course, the master's level certification, is to find and I only do memoir. I only do women's memoir, so that's what I'm referring to now, that we find the gold in a story. In other words, what sets a story apart from other stories. And I had already been doing that on my own. There was another memoir that I had written called Finding Zoe. You had mentioned that I actually became an IPNE Book Award finalist for that. That's the Independent Publishers of New England. So, I knew what I was doing. But in this course, they called it Finding the Gold. And I thought, and then when I finished the certification training, I was relaunching my business. I said, that's what I'm going to call my company, Golden Ghostwriting, because I find the gold.
That's beautiful. I love it. So, at one time when I was looking for publishers for my memoir, 50 After 50, I was told that to be commercially successful as a memoirist, you had to be famous already. Do you believe that?
It's getting more and more. It really is incredible. It does seem these days that in order to get a traditional book deal for a memoir, you have to be a celebrity or a politician or, a real influencer. And I recently went to a seminar from a literary agent. I'm part of a memoir collaboration, and I'm very interested in the conversation about memoir. I don't take the classes to do the writing necessarily, but to be in that conversation. And the conversation I've been hearing more and more is if, even if you have a really good platform, forget it. I mean, there are other good options. There really are. But so this literary agent, she kept saying, it depends, it depends. So it really does depend. There's no hard, fast rules, but I feel it's more competitive for memoir really than anything else. The industry loves to hate memoir for different reasons. So, but don't ever give up because you never know. I mean, the universe works in miraculous ways. You have to, you know, keep your thinking cap on and then trust that you'll be led where you need to go. If
I
that
believe
answers the
that.
question.
Yeah, I definitely believe that. And my memoir wasn't straight memoir, it was proscriptive memoir. So it was categorized in the self-help category, which I
Right.
think helped it become an Amazon bestseller.
Oh, that's wonderful. I didn't know that it was actually a memoir, but I understand it's prescriptive. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, yeah.
You've been through a lot yourself.
Thanks. So why do people choose to work with ghostwriters?
Well, yeah, I would say that somebody that has a passion to tell their story, but don't have the time or inclination or the ability to write it. I mean, these days, even if you are a writer, that doesn't necessarily mean you have the understanding of the workings of the publishing industry. And as I said, it changes so much. And like I said, I had had two books traditionally published prior to doing this ghostwriting certification training, but I felt like I needed to go back. So, to have that writing expertise. Another thing is, we get so close to our own stories. And so, one of the benefits of working with me as your ghostwriter is I help an author take a step back. I function as like an objective observer or witness, if you will, and help the author connect the dots in ways she may not have seen before. And with memoir, the deeper we go, as you must know, the more universal our stories. And I go very deep with my authors. You have to be open to this. I mean, it's not for everyone. It's kind of like my understanding of life based on personal experience and the deep healing that I've been done in my life is that, things happen to us that are difficult for us to process and let go. I know, we all know for whatever reasons, it's we were young or it's just horrendous, and we all have our reasons, but that becomes part of our life story. I mean, it's the human experience. And to me, healing means that we do process this thing through and we let it go and we can offer our wisdom to others. I would say the reason I became a women's memoirist is because I'm drawn to helping women authors deepen their healing. Like, why does an artist paint? Why does a dancer dance? It's funny. I have my toe shoes hanging in my office from when I was 5 years old. And here I am, like, 50 somewhat odds year later, dancing with the universe, um, you know, sharing my gifts of healing and writing with women authors. I feel very blessed.
Yeah, those are beautiful memoir metaphors. And I also agree with something that you talk about often, which is storytelling has a universal healing power. But explain to our listeners why you think that is so.
Um, sure. The way I see it, Maria, personally, life is a mystery. It's joyous and incredibly difficult. And part of being human is that impetus that we want to better understand ourselves and life. And story helps us do this. You know, learning about someone else's life, their self-reflection about it, how they work through challenges and healed. It helps us to better understand our own life. We're all more alike than different in that our life lessons overlap. So reading someone else's story or telling our own,
Hmm.
it helps us to heal. Again, what does it mean to heal? To me, it means letting go of what holds us back and causes suffering. I believe it's what we take birth for. No, there's this great quote that I just read it in this, through this memoir circle that I'm a part of. And I said, it's reading is breathing in and writing is breathing out. And so,
Oh.
isn't that, it's incredible. So, like memoir for me, memoir is about being human, sharing an aspect of our life story. It's an aspect of our life story, how we faced our fears and found our strength and found self-love. It's a beautiful process.
Oh, I love that. Is that quote yours? Memoirs about being human?
Yeah, it is.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I recently wanted to share this. I'm reading a memoir right now. Whenever I'm not in the process of heavily writing, I'm always reading. But when I'm writing, I can't read. But I'm reading this memoir right now. I always all I read is memoirs, and it's crazy. I've been doing that for years. But I learn also. There's the craft involved. But anyway, it's Jacinda Ardern, the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, and she wrote a memoir called A Different Kind of Power. And I just love it. It's just so beautiful. I feel like she writes to all women. She was the prime minister, and the day that she found out she won, she had just taken a pregnancy test. And it showed the two lines, that she was pregnant while they're announcing over the radio that she won. And I just thought that was, I mean, what more could a woman share with other women about being in our power and what's important to us and that yearning to be a parent, but also to express other aspects of ourselves. I mean, it's an incredible memoir. I'm loving it.
Yeah. Well, do you have a favorite memoir?
Oh, favorite memoir. Well, I have to say that I have a spiritual teacher. His name is Michael Singer. He
Mhm.
wrote a book. His claim to fame is The Untethered Soul. That's how people know of him.
Mhm.
And I've been following him for many years. I actually met him like 30 years ago when I was living in a yoga ashram. But anyway, he actually wrote a memoir.
Mhm.
And although I only focus on women's memoirs these days, because I'm a woman, it's kind of like personal and political for me,
Mhm.
it's like I'm for women. But anyway, this is such a powerful memoir. His memoir called The Surrender Experiment, because it's really, to me, it exemplifies what it means to live your life as a spiritual journey and what it means to truly surrender our likes and dislikes, even though we have them. I mean, it's not a matter of not having them, but what happens to life when we truly trust in a higher power, I know that word means something, higher power means something to you. As a matter
Yeah.
of fact, the the 12-step programs and these teachings of Mickey Singer, they're very they're aligned. They're I belong to this group. I found them through Facebook. I couldn't believe it. It was a shock. But it's a Mickey, he calls himself Mickey, if you know
Mhm.
him. So it's a Mickey Singer, people that follow his teachings. So I joined, I found this group is amazing. And they're actually giving a program now of combination of the 12 steps and Mickey's teachings. It's
Oh,
really
wow.
awesome. My husband is actually taking it. I'm really happy.
Wow,
So
that sounds so interesting. So
Yeah,
I guess it's more he really teaches what I believe, which is that we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
that's exactly right. And that's, you know, it's a lifetime practice.
Yeah,
It
it
really
sure
is. But
is.
I believe it's what we take birth for. And
Yeah.
I think for me, becoming a women's memoirist is really my way of using my spiritual awareness and my writing, to help people sort of like that. That's what I'm here for. I feel very blessed that I found a way to incorporate the most important thing to me along with my career. So
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you're an ordinary ghostwriter. You bring some spiritual aspect to your work, which is really beautiful.
yeah, I
So,
do. I mean,
yeah. So,
that's
what can an aspiring author or established author expect when working with you? How does it go usually?
well, it really has to be a good fit because, as I think I mentioned before, I go very deep with my authors. You have to be open to that. It's not for everybody, and I anybody that is in a very tight deadline, I mention to them it's probably better to work with somebody else because the way that I work is that I let the story lead and
Mm.
take the author where she needs to go. And it's a certain kind of listening that helps to deepen the self-reflection, deepen the understanding of, how they work through their life experiences. It's a very healing process, but that's you have to want that. Like for me, the healing is a really key aspect of it.
Yeah, definitely. Where are you located? I don't even know. In Massachusetts?
Yeah, I'm in west of Boston, a town called Framingham.
Yeah. And do you work mostly online with your clients?
Yes, only online.
Yeah. Okay. And what advice do you have for authors, generally speaking, about the different paths to getting published?
That's another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, there are a lot of options in addition to traditional publishing. I mean, if that's something your heart is really set on, it is good if you have a strong platform. But there are, if you have a good marketing opportunities, I mean, you may not get a publishing deal from one of the big five, but there are other smaller traditional publishers. However, that said, finding a good, reputable hybrid publisher, it's a very, very good option. And so a hybrid publisher, they provide all of the services. Well, you have to check about distribution because that's always a bit of a kicker. But so they provide all of the services that a traditional publisher provides, and you share the costs. I'll say about traditional publishing, it's still the most straightforward and least expensive. But it takes the longest and it's extremely competitive, as we said before, especially for memoir. And then there's a self-publishing, which is this ever-changing maze from legit outfits to total scams, and you're responsible for everything, as you know, because you are the publisher. So you have to take care of all the production option, getting the pre-press and the ISBN and the LLC. There's a whole. It's funny. I until I took that. Certification, I didn't even know. It's like once the manuscript is done, then the whole thing begins, in terms of the production. But so if you're doing it on your own, even if you work with Amazon, for example, they won't distribute, there's no distribution, but they will help you market, if you pay them. But basically, as of with for self-publishing, you're responsible for everything for yourself. So you could either hire one or more outfits to help you through the process.
Yeah. Yeah. I have done all three types now, and I mean, there are definite advantages and disadvantages to all three of
Yeah.
them. So
Yes.
I think it's too case specific to determine what the best path is for someone. And a lot of people write books to preserve their stories, not necessarily to make any money.
Right. Legacy.
Yeah, legacy. So, it costs a lot to hire you, I think. What's the average for a ghostwriter these days?
Well, there's always somebody out there that will fit whatever budget that you have. But as far as industry rates,
Uh-huh.
it's if you're looking to get a book that will get the marketable literary property, is that what they call it, which is in English, a book that gets the attention it deserves in the marketplace. It costs something. It definitely costs something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean thousands
Yeah.
of dollars, I think.
Yeah, it is. It is. You have to.
Sometimes I suspect that people come to you with a book that you have to completely rewrite, and sometimes it's less editing. Is there sort of an average of what comes across your desk?
Well, I focus on writing from scratch. That's just
Okay.
something I feel that I like to do. But I could say from that vantage point that when you work with somebody, you never know what's going to come up. I mean, I could share this. I have permission from an author that I just finished writing her memoir like last week. And that project I worked on for 2 years.
Mm.
So memoirs take a long time. Typically with ghostwriters, they crank it out, but that's not the kind of ghostwriter I am. I like working with women that want to get to what I call the highest expression of their story. And so this woman that I was working with, we started working, and she's very psychic, and that was a big part of her story. Like I never met somebody that was as psychic as she was, and she also had a lot of physical problems. So that was the story arc in a sense, and we agreed on it. We agreed on a price, and we started working. Oh, Maria, I think I might have even mentioned this to you once, but anyway, like 3 weeks in, and she said, "Oh, well." I didn't mention this before, but I was sexually abused by my grandfather when I was 4 and 5 years old. And I'm like, oh, well, that changes things, and that completely changed the narrative arc. And I had to work in, so sort of going back to the other question we were talking about before, finding the gold, what makes a story different than all other stories? Like, I mean, it's the saddest thing to have to say that there are so many sexual abuse stories out there. It breaks my heart. I mean, that's another whole discussion. But what would make one trauma story or sexual abuse story different than all the others? And so for this story, we weaved in the narrative arc how her psychic abilities, and I mean it was true, how her psychic abilities was part of her healing and stopping the generational abuse in her family. But I had no idea. It just yeah. And the,
Wow.
the book, the book that I mentioned before, memoir, it's called Finding Zoe. That was the one where I was an IPNE Book Award finalist. The author is a former Miss Deaf America. She is deaf.
Oh.
And so when we first started working together, she wanted to tell the story of why she had adopted her daughter, Zoe, why Zoe's birth mother chose to place Zoe for adoption rather than parenting. And my client author, Brandy is her name, Brandy Rose, she didn't even want to be in the book at all. And so, okay, so she hires me and we start working. And like the minute she opened her mouth, I couldn't believe the story that she had. It was incredible. And I asked her, I said, "Would you have an unbelievable story, your own story. Would you be open to writing your memoir?" And she was. And so her daughter, Zoe, that piece was filtered in. It became a completely different book. In other words, it became her memoir and how, because she had always yearned for a daughter.
Hmm.
She was just one of these moms that felt, if I don't have a daughter in this life, I just won't be fulfilled. And so after she gave birth to the third son, her and her husband decided that they were going to go to China and adopt. And then that never happened. And then the story became how the universe conspired so that she found the daughter she'd been waiting for her whole life, and her daughter ended up, rather than going into the foster care system, but into a home of, I mean, two deaf advocates. And I mean, it was like the perfect family. So that was nothing like when it first started out. I
Yeah.
kind of get things like that, but I trust, I trust.
Yeah, wow. Well, it seems that it's working for you. One of
It
the
is.
services that I see in your on your website called Golden Ghostwriting, the website, is that you offer a bestseller strategy plan. What is that?
Oh, sure. So that is, if an author is not taking a traditional route, as you know, that if you go with a traditional publisher, you need to develop a book proposal, which is basically the marketing plan that you submit to agents and publishers. So if an author is not going that route, whatever route you do, as you know, you still have to market your book. I mean, that's the biggest part of the book proposal is the marketing plan. So this is a service that I offer if an author wants to have a plan for getting going in terms of her own marketing for the first 6 months or something like that. I help her get going, developing a marketing plan to promote the book.
What sorts of things do you recommend for the marketing plan in general?
Well, selling books, different ways for selling books are obviously, um, well, not obviously, but being on podcasts is a very popular way. And then it's giving talks, how to develop bulk sales. If there's a way where you can speak and sell, if it's a big organization, you sell them a lot of books. When they sell them to the attendees to the talk. And also, this is something that, if you want to deduct the ghostwriting, my fee, in other words, deduct my fee from your taxes, if you develop a webinar or some way that you can say, you show that you use the book to promote the business. This is just kind of an aside, but doing like an online webinar or something like that, and that's something that you could actually deduct from your taxes. I mean, check with your attorney. No, you're an attorney. Don't quote me, but things like that, how to get out there, how to get out there.
Yeah, yeah,
Stuff back, obviously.
it's almost like a full-time job, really. I
Oh,
mean,
it is it's a business too.
it
That's the thing.
is. It
Yeah.
is. So many authors are ill-equipped to do that, which is why I started my book marketing business, which is more that I teach women how to do it themselves. It's not rocket science, it's just time consuming to do book marketing, to get
Yeah.
into podcasts or speaking engagements or your book tour. So, yeah, it's a whole thing. People think you get it published, you're done. That's just the beginning.
That's exactly right. That's exactly. Yeah,
So, I really respect the work that you're doing, and I'm so grateful that our paths
me too.
crossed. And I would like to ask you the question I ask of all my guests, which is, what do you do, Gail, to become your best version?
What I do is connect in with that it's my spiritual path, and it's really connecting in with that part of me that knows that I am more than human, that I'm a soul, that I'm a spirit. And my deepest spiritual practice is more and more every day to be able to gain that awareness that I am not my thoughts, I am not my emotions, I am the one that experiences them, but I am not them. And I learn more and more. This is my particular path, but I learn of also that we are made of energy and that when we get drawn down into our thoughts and emotions, it's energy that's drawing us down. And so it's been many years to get to this point, but now I'm focusing on myself as an energetic being and learning how to not tell myself I can't have these thoughts, I can't have these emotions. It's a hard thing, like, but that to put my focus in another, not deny, not suppress, but to practice not getting drawn down into that pull, our thoughts and emotions. It's like this magnet, it just like it pulls us down. So my daily practice through meditation and other practices is to um, maintain that awareness of that I am not my thoughts. I am a soul, a spiritual being having a human experience. That's how we started this whole thing.
Yes, that's beautiful. I love that. And I am going to recommit to working on that. So, thank you. Look for goldenghostwriting.com to follow and learn more about Gail's important work. Thank you, Gail.
Oh, you're most welcome.